let's put that in the background because we have a co-host tonight with Mercedez Lucke Benedict, our friend. She's been on here before, and she and Lala are going to do a great job of interviewing our guest, Chris McKinnell from Asuncion, Paraguay.
Hey, how you doing?
And Chris has been on, and Mercedes has been on, and now Lala's got the microphone. And welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. I'm going to run the comments section.
Oh, smart.
You're online.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you, guys. This is so exciting. I'm excited to be here and to be with Chris because, Chris, I love your family. I love the Warrens. I'm a huge fan. I've been looking into you, and it's amazing to hear about you. So I'm very excited to be here tonight.
I'm looking forward to getting to know you. Thank you.
Do you want to start first? You want to ask a question first?
Oh, la. I want to tell you something that's going to be kind of silly, but I just saw something. It says on my phone, you're running out of storage space on this device. Something may affect your live stream performance. I'm readjusting my stuff right now. And so if I do disappear, just know I will come back. Okay, so just know, and I'll have to adjust something if it does. If I do disappear, you'll know that's what it is. Okay.
I'm making a local recording, so I think we're fine.
Oh, good. Okay. I don't know what's going on. I'm telling you, it's something about the space on that, I'm sure. Okay, so Lala, sure. One of the questions I asked, which when you were on their show last time, Chris, it was about the differences between how you go about your work with what you do in the field of the paranormal compared to how your grandparents did. Now, and you answered that beautifully. I mean, so you don't really have to go over that again, but I do think it's important. I think it's really important for people to understand like you become they're no longer on the earth. So you're the family and you're the next one to kind of take the sword or the torch, whichever. And it's I think it's fascinating.
I'm put a light in the darkness kind of guy.
Yeah. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that feels to you. I know that Lala said you were writing a book or you're writing something. So what is it that your plans are to kind of move forward with your life?
Well, people talk about legacy, and yeah, it's right in the name of my foundation. But the truth is, I don't concern myself with that very much. As I said in the last program, this is a field of research. I'm here, and look, if I have to be really completely honest, I'm not a researcher anymore. I don't have time for it. I'm 60 years old. I know I'm not going to get the answers I need yet, not in this lifetime. Until we have the unified field theory in physics, I really don't see us unlocking some of the basic understandings that we need to really start to understand this phenomenon. My job is to help people. I'm a paranormal social worker, is the best way to put it.
Nice.
I'm here to hook you up with the services you need to get the help that you deserve. My grandparents, they of course were a massive influence on my life. I can't overstate it enough. But my grandmother's with me all the time. She's not worried about my carrying on her name. She's worried about making sure that I'm doing what I need to do and making sure that I'm helping people. She shows up for my clients. My clients see her.
Wow.
And give her messages, and that's reassuring to me. When I go on a case and I know I'm going to use my abilities, I always ask my grandmother for help with that. But the name, the responsibility, I suppose, that people might want to associate with that, I don't feel a responsibility to my grandparents' name. My responsibility, and this is true with anybody in the foundation, our first and primary responsibility is to our clients, to the people we're serving. That's it.
That's a great answer. it makes sense to me too. And it sounds, I mean, it makes sense to me with your character because you have a very strong character. And what you said at the beginning, you know, about the field of study, and I can bring Lala into this too because she and I have similar abilities, and possibly even Bob, you know, being able to see spirits and see the dimensional aspects of how they move and travel. You know, I think that there's so much out there. So I think for people like all of us, I believe in these squares here, we have those abilities to be able to tune in to the thing. So I think it's kind of neat to have us all here together like this. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick, I have to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to rewind this, but I swore I saw some shadow walk, unless there's somebody behind you, walk past the doorway. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, my daughter just came home.
Okay, I was like, holy shit.
Ah!
I have a question about actually. I've asked this question before, and there's different answers, but can people be harassed by? I know you don't believe in demons, so negative entities. Can someone be harassed only really in dreams and not in real solid life? Is that a common occurrence sometimes?
Can you try to? I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Can they be what?
Can people be harassed by negative entities in just dreams?
Absolutely. And by the way, I do believe in negative entities. I just don't believe in calling them demons.
Yeah.
And I believe that they're egregores or tulpas. They're manifestations of our own energies. And that's why I think it's so important that when we're helping someone, we're dealing with them holistically. We're dealing with all of their problems, not just the paranormal. I've had cases that have taught me early in my career that if we fail to take care of the underlying reason that that person became vulnerable to the paranormal in the first place, then the paranormal will re-manifest. And we have to help them to strengthen them spiritually, mentally, physically, whatever that is, so that they're not going to open that door again. It's also why I really don't like people reinvestigating places that have been closed, like, for instance, the Conjuring House. Once that has been solved, you don't want people coming in there trying to open the door again. That's just crazy.
Right.
But spirit communicates most easily in our dreams. And now I'm talking human spirits, because that's where we are closest to them on the astral plane. So it's much easier for them to come through. Those dreams are going to be far more vivid, and they're going to stick with you forever. Not like a normal dream. A normal dream, you're lucky if maybe one or two moments you'll hold on to for a while. But a real visitation, my grandmother visited me about a month and a half ago.
Wow.
And I remember every moment of that. But negative things, absolutely, they can manifest there. That's when you're vulnerable. That's when you're truly afraid. You're in your bed. Maybe they're holding you down and you can't even move. That's also very common. It's all about eliciting an emotional response in you that they feed off of to manifest further. They do take on a life of their own. I'm not saying these things are solely part of you. They're not. Once they break away, once they start to manifest, you don't have control over them unless you take control over them.
Okay. Thank you. Mercedes, you want to
Apologize.
No, that makes sense. I'm glad he could hear the question because that was a good question. But I also believe that I'm also curious about how you feel about our land here is we have hauntings from many years ago. So it's really, it was like the property itself was really haunted, and I'm curious how you feel about that. I mean, we're in the Arizona area, so I know you guys, you're all in different areas, but how do you feel about the land that is haunted?
It's all about the people. It's all about the people. If a soul feels a connection to that land and they want to stay there, they're going to stay there. Whether it's an actual building or it's the land itself, that's up to that soul. That's also why sometimes, you'll see a ghost and it looks like they're floating on air. They're not floating on air. They're walking on a floor you can no longer see because it's a place that doesn't exist on our dimensional plane any longer. So of course, spirits, wherever human beings have been, there are going to be some spirits around.
Right. How about where you're at right now? What is the difference, do you think, something in Paraguay? Like, how's the people and the spirits?
That's a good question, actually. Yeah.
Most people never even heard of Paraguay. They confuse it with Uruguay. And Paraguay had a war 150 years ago that wiped out 80% of the entire population, men, women, and children, and 90% of the men.
Wow.
Yeah. It was called the War of the Triple Alliance. And Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina, there was a would-be dictator here. Well, he was a dictator. He wanted to be a Napoleon Bonaparte, and he was trying to expand his borders in 3 different countries. And they all ganged up and destroyed this country. There are a lot of lost souls here, a lot of them. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm here to help them to pass over, some of them to pass over. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands that died, so that the numbers, who knows how many I'll be able to actually help. If I can help 10 or 15, I'll be unbelievably happy. But the other thing is, here in all of South America, if you're a psychic, they're going to label you a witch, which is ignorant. It's not at all the same thing. And unfortunately, because there are hundreds of different schools of magic in the world, witches often get lumped in with some really bad people, even though they more often than not are not. So there's a lot of prejudice and a lot of ignorance, and I'm here to educate, and I'm here to, yes, here's one of the nice things about the Warren legacy. I come in with the name and instant recognition, and all of a sudden people have a place to go to. I have helped some people here who felt so lost and alone because they were psychic and their own families thought they were just crazy. They were, some of them, very depressed. One young lady was pretty much suicidal. And now I've got 3 new adopted adult daughters, just because they've adopted me into their families because I helped them so much. That's rewarding to me. I don't care how I help a person. It doesn't have to be paranormal. All I care about is helping. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to a woman who lost her son 3 days ago. I'm not going to try and contact her son because I want to give him time to cross over and to adjust. The good rule of thumb for me is about 8 months. Give him 8 months to adjust. But I can help her through her grief.
Okay. That's interesting. Why 8 months?
It's just the rule of thumb I've come up with from other psychics I've worked with, that the soul needs time to adjust, especially if it's a soul that's been traumatized. Now, if they want to make contact with us, that's a whole other thing. I have no problem with that. And Lala, you and I yesterday started talking about how some souls come through quickly, and we can get into that if you like. But I'm not going to reach out and disturb them while they're adjusting. I want to give them that time and that respect.
Okay. Yeah. Can we talk about what we were talking about yesterday? You can share.
Yeah. Let me think about it now. 17 years ago, I was engaged. And I was very much in love. We had bought a house. My son was 8 years old. She had 3 children of her own who were older than my son. And my son had moved into the house. She was still selling her own old house down the street, and then she was going to come with her kids, and we were going to be one big happy family. And then the Sunday before Thanksgiving, she tried to get up and she couldn't. They rushed her to the hospital, and she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She died on my mother's birthday on January 11th. I wanted her with me. When she was out of the few times she was out of the hospital, I wanted her to be home with me. And she wanted to be with her mother. And that caused some tension. Cancer can put a lot of pressure on a relationship. So we hadn't been talking much, unfortunately. And the night she died, I was writing her a love letter as she was dying. And the night before the funeral, my grandmother and my mother and my son were in the master bedroom. I was in my son's room, and she came to me. And I was in tears. I mean, she's standing right there in front of me. And I'm calling out to my mother. And I could hear my mother crossing the hallway to go to the bathroom. She thought I was talking in my sleep, so she ignored me. I wanted somebody to come in and see this, But she was like, shh, it's okay, it's okay. And I love you, don't worry about it. You don't have to say anything. I'm like, no, but that wasn't good enough. She could not get the message across clearly enough to me for me to accept it. Mm-hmm. And about 2 weeks later, I was alone at home. My son was with his mother that night. The house was pitch black. I was in bed, and she was a heavy girl. And I heard her footsteps coming down the hallway. And I opened my eyes, and there was a mirror behind the bedroom door. And even in pitch blackness, it was like daylight. I could see her reflection. She was propped up on one elbow, looking down at me from behind me in bed with a look on her face. And look, it's not rational, I know that, but I closed my eyes. I didn't want to see her leave again. I couldn't bear that. And she got right in front of me, got right down in front of my face, and she said very clearly, physically, not some psychic sense, clearly, I love you. And then she physically kissed me on the lips, and she was gone.
Wow.
And that's just a perfect example of unfinished business. We were having problems, and she needed me to know that she truly loved me.
That's wonderful. That is. My boyfriend, we had a son together, and when he passed, he had leukemia, and I had already lost my mom and dad, so I was very much in grief. But he would bang on the walls. But finally, about a year or two later, his voice showed up for us, and he said, "Hello, Xander," and that's our son's name.
We
Nice.
still have that recording,
Yeah.
the electronic voice phenomenon, clear as day. It's his voice. It's amazing.
I absolutely believe that. When they want to, they can come through, and I'm so glad he did for you.
And he flipped the light switch on before, turned the camera from night mode to day mode. You could see something walking in front of the camera, and then "Hello, Xander" was what was said next. It was as clear as day. Wow. It was amazing.
It's how important we are to them. He comes through.
Very much, yeah.
Although, for the people watching tonight, it's really important that never, ever, ever investigate your own home, because you can't leave your home. So if you're bringing something into the house, you don't have a way of getting away from it anymore. Don't do that yourself, please. These are the professionals. Let them do that.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened here is we were not exactly given a choice. Things showed up, and that was that. And we did what we needed to do, because for a month, Dave had been insistent, making noise, knocking on the wall like he did for her. So I put up this camera, and instantly his needs were met. We put a little shrine up to him, and so forth and so on, and helped his son in multiple ways deal with the grief. And after that, everything's been fine.
Of course. And
And-
Mercedes, that actually brings me back to your question earlier about differences. The truth is, people are the same all over the world. When it comes to people, it's so basic. You know, I had a ghost come here, I guess about 2 months ago, and I was supposed to go to a house the next day. They were having phenomena in the house. A woman was terrified. She didn't know what she was dealing with. That's usually the reason somebody is afraid. And they knocked on my bedroom door, and I was like, "Oh no, you're not bothering me at home. You're not bothering me while I'm trying to sleep. You will go. I will come to your house tomorrow." Lay down spiritual guidelines always, folks. Very important. They will listen most of the time. But when I got there, on the second visit, it became the first visit, I knew it was the father who had died, but I thought, okay, he's just letting her know that he loves her, and that's all. But then he was still insistent. We have a video of him opening a bedroom door, jiggling the handle, the whole bit. So I went back a second time. I said, look, you know, I don't want to do a spiritual cleansing of the house with you and have you kicked out. You love your daughter. You want to come through to me and tell me what's going on? And he kept saying, danger, danger, danger. I was like, I am not telling her danger. That is not enough. You've got to give me more. We don't give incomplete information to a client. That's terrifying. But as I walked through and I was doing the spiritual cleansing, I started looking at all of these alcohol bottles. And so I said to myself, all right, there's something going on here. I said to the lady of the house, I said, are you drinking? Because you really can't in this house. Her son was extremely gifted. And she said, no, not me. That's my ex-boyfriend. And all of a sudden the switch went on in my head. I was like, oh, that's the danger. Okay. And then she starts playing me these audio clips from him, from his mother swearing and screaming and threatening them. And I said, yeah, he's trying to warn you that this man is dangerous. And she said, yeah, he's hurt my son. He's tried to hurt me. I said, and look, I am not a gun owner. I've never been a gun owner. And what came out of my mouth from him was, do you have a gun? And she said, yes, but it's not in my house. I said, you need to get your gun and you need to bring it home. And she did. He found out, the man. She immediately blocked him on WhatsApp. Big down here in South America. And he immediately knew about me. And so he was threatening me. He was threatening to run over her mother. He had called her through another person's WhatsApp account. So we got a hold of the police, let them hear everything, and now everything's fine for the moment. But yeah, the spirits will come through and protect you regardless of the culture. Now, inhuman spirits are another thing altogether. They manifest according to your cultural and spiritual beliefs. They will take form according to you. And I think the reason for that is because human beings, by and large, cannot handle the unknown. The unknown is more terrifying than something you can put a name on, even if the name is the devil. The devil is better than the unknown. So I think that's why these things start to manifest that way. In the case that's called the Devil in Connecticut case, or the Conjuring 3 case, David Glotzel, at one point, he saw a red devil with the pointed horns and the tail and everything. Because to a 10-year-old boy, what's more terrifying than that? That's how it manifested.
So it can project what you want to see. So you're saying like it projects what you want to see, or things like that?
not projecting exactly. It's shaped by you. Have you ever heard of a tulpa?
Oh yeah, where it's projected from your innermost thoughts and perceptions.
Exactly. And tulpa is a Tibetan Buddhist term for a spirit created by their energy.
Poltergeist is what a lot of people in our world would call it.
What was that? An egregore?
Oh, poltergeist.
Yeah, well, poltergeist is an example of this, absolutely. But those are not exactly a tulpa. A tulpa has direction. It's given direction by the monk who's created it. So there's one great story I love. An old monk got a little bit cranky at the young monks who were making too much noises in the corridor of the monastery, and created a full physical tiger in the corridor to terrify them and scare them away. And then it dissipated because that was its job, to do that and then to be done. But when it is done unintentionally, through wild energy, through fear, that's where you get your poltergeist or your demonic entity manifestation. Or perhaps cryptids. Down here in South America, there are literally thousands of different types of cryptids around the many different cultures. I don't believe that all of these exist on their own, and we just haven't ever seen even one. I think these are shaped by our thoughts and feelings and stories, and they take on a life of their own.
Yeah, I think that they travel through portals.
A lot of people do. I haven't seen enough evidence to support that. So, people actually, Lala, didn't you ask me about portals last time? I think
she did.
Yeah.
Mercedes actually had a lot of portals. You had a portal on your land, right? It had to be closed.
I mean, I see the portals, and I drew the portals here. But as far as the cryptids, I interviewed a really cool guy named Lee Hampel, who was in the Small Town Monsters, and it was such a great interview. And he has been researching this land in Wisconsin for like over 10 years, and has filmed footage and all this kind of stuff. It's fascinating. So you should look at it or go find him. But he has literally things where like the camera's there, and it's almost like this thing will show up, a mist will show up, and then it disappears. And so he's caught it so many times on the camera. It's almost like, how does it just appears, and it can literally take a dead animal, like if you put out, roadkill, and it will take the animal with it, and it's all on film. Like it's like there 1 minute and not the next. So that leads me to believe that, just from the different research I've done, it just sounds like there's a way of I would say also dimensional travel is.
Well, I absolutely believe in that too. I've had friends who've done it by accident and slipped into other dimensions. I had a case in Costa Rica. It was at a former coffee plantation, and I won't get into the whole thing with you. But one night, there's a cryptid there that's known as a mona. It's a 3-foot tall monkey-like creature. But the story behind it is these are witches who can transform, like a skinwalker can, into these creatures. And 3 of them appeared in the largest tree in the front yard of this family's plantation. And they were laughing at the 3 women of the house, mother, daughter, and grandmother, and screeching and cackling. And 3 days later, that tree fell over dead. Another time, for those folks who remember the movie The Predator, when the predator is invisible, you still see an outline of him, a hazy outline. The boyfriend of the grandmother had come over to the house, and he saw one of these outlines carrying 2 geese, one under each arm. And he shouted out for it to stop. It dropped one of the geese and then took off with the other one. That's just 2 examples. Oh, and then a few mornings later, they woke up and they had 60 duck, geese, and chickens, and all 60 of them were laid out in front of the cage, all dead in a row.
Oh my God.
Wow. So during my during my regression, I was under hypnosis, laying on my bed. The hypnotist was going on, regressor was going on with me, and the security camera out back, which had been in the off mode, turned on and was triggered, and one of these transparent figures with an outline walked right in front of the camera and into the house. That was pretty amazing.
Wow.
And here's the thing I want to say: it's okay to not know. We don't have to know everything. Like Bigfoot is supposed to be able to do the same thing, to slip in and out of dimensions and to be this outline creature. I don't know that that's what that is. I don't know what I'm dealing with, and I am actually perfectly comfortable with not putting a label on it. There are mysteries we're just not going to know, and I'm okay with that as long as I'm able to help the family. Which, in the case in Costa Rica, one of my favorite cases ever, it had a perfectly wonderful, happy ending.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
What about you with the UFO phenomenon? Because we know Bob and Lala are very much into all that, and we are too in our area, in our house. So what do you think is, we have that a lot on the unseen realm where the question comes in, is it the same thing? Do you think that they are possibly ghosts? Are they different things?
No.
What do you think?
I don't think they're ghosts at all. I think they are very real aliens. They are creatures or people or beings from other planets. NASA very clearly stated a few years ago that there are more living worlds in the universe than grains of sand on Earth. I looked that number up. That's the number 75, followed by 17 zeros.
Oh my gosh.
And how can you not believe that they exist? The overwhelming evidence, and I know I'm not talking to the 3 of you, you guys know, the overwhelming evidence that we've been visited, that these things have saved us from our own stupidity. What was it, in 68 or something, that there was a huge flock of birds coming from Russia that NORAD thought were incoming missiles, and we were about to fire on the Soviet Union. And all of a sudden, a saucer comes over the different silos, shoots a beam down, and knocks out all of the missiles one at a time, because they're not on a circuit. Each one had to be done individually. Yeah. Wow. Or the buildup of alien, of unidentified aerial phenomena. I hate the new moniker. Give me UFO every time.
Just call it UFO. Yeah. You're in an older crowd. Call it UFOs.
Well, ladies accepted. They are not. But no,
they're both 29.
Thank you. We are. Yes.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's always a buildup around military problems.
Yeah.
Like on the demilitarized zone in North and South Korea. I bet right now, with martial law being declared, I bet there's quite a bit more going on.
Mm-hmm. In
Do you ever
Korea?
get? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that today. I also heard that today from Jason McLeod. I saw on his post something about how between 12 and 3 there was supposed to be some alien thing. I was looking, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything.
No, Alien Invasion Day, I haven't heard. I saw that in the earliest comment, and I don't know much about that.
I don't think it happened, unless we just didn't see it.
There were people on TikTok making fun. They had their bags packed. They were ready to be picked up during the invasion.
Well, sure. Let me get rid of the lights. if that helps. I don't
That's my friend Joe. That's my friend Joe Monk. Just ignore it.
Yeah.
I imagine I love what you said. I've heard that before about the missile silos, but I didn't know the year of that. So that's interesting. It was in that time period too.
It was in the late 60s. I can't think it was 67 or 68, but there is actually government records of all of this. I did a video on the Warren files on YouTube about it, all about aliens. I'm not an expert at all. It fascinates me. I am not like you guys when it comes to aliens. I did work with a man in Peru, Dr. Anthony Choi. He is a huge UFO person. But here's the danger I see. We went into a haunted ancient fort, 400 years old. And definitely haunted. I knew what I was dealing with. I could feel it. I could, and then I don't believe my psychic senses without evidence. But he saw something, and whereas everyone else thought it was a spirit of, one of the pirates who've been captured and died in this place, his first and immediate and only reaction was, "It's an alien." It's like, if all you believe in is what you study, then you're not really a researcher. Great man, I respect him greatly, but you have to have an open mind in this work, and you have to be willing to say, "I don't know." Don't put that name to something just to make yourself feel good.
Well, that I was interested in CE5 for a while, but I never went all the way in. And I'll be straight up. I have no idea who we're talking to. A lot of people do it, but the ones that we see, I'm not volunteering. They're just showing up. And after I went and visited Chris Bledsoe, all those, they just started coming around. And I went and visited him again in September in Wilmington Beach, North Carolina. We went down to the water, and 250 people had 150 craft fly over in an hour and a half.
Wow.
And, Chris is calling them, but I'm happy to observe them. And 250 people were convinced. The thing that I wish they were warned about is when you have those experiences around Chris, they follow you home.
Oh, yeah.
And they followed me home from Chris's house.
I'll be honest with you. Ask them to come see me. I've been trying forever. And if I were to disappear tomorrow because I was taken away, I would not have a problem with that. I mean,
that's interesting, though, that you haven't had an experience like that. I'm surprised.
I had one experience I cannot fathom. And I'll share it with you because maybe you'll have some idea. Now, this was at a point, for people who know my history, I spent 10 years in a wheelchair. I weighed about twice as much as I weigh today. And I was in bad shape. And I was at my mother's house. And I saw, my son and I saw this incredibly bright light coming from the backyard. There's nothing back there. Nothing. There's a swamp and a mountain, and there are no people at all. And this would go for about 1 minute, turn off for 15, and go for a minute, and it went on for hours. And it took me at least an hour to get up. That's how handicapped I was. And I went and I looked. I couldn't see a source for the light anywhere. I mean, it was as bright as if you lit up a football stadium.
Wow.
And it wasn't coming from ground level. It was coming from above, not the sky, but like 20 feet above.
Mm-hmm.
And it was coming from the swamp area. I contacted MUFON a few days later, and they yelled at me because they said it was too late and they couldn't investigate because I didn't tell them about it immediately. I was like,
"Oh, geez,
just found out about you guys. Leave me alone."
Wow. So the parapsychological paranormal researchers. Hang on just a minute. Let me bring Mercedes back in. Have found a correlation between prepubescent to pubescent teenagers and poltergeists, and I think that's how a lot of people began to make the connection. But this brings up the need to answer a question from Delta Tesseract. If you care to comment, can we talk more about teaching people how to handle heightened states of emotional dysregulation, which then manifests psychic disturbances? I bet you deal with that a lot, Chris.
That's a good question.
Yeah, constantly. The very first, and I'm going to repeat some advice that my grandmother has given as well. The very first thing you want to do is center yourself. You want to start bringing positive energy back into the house. Be aware of what your actual problem is inside of you, and then get the help you need. If you need therapy, get it. If you need antidepressants, get them. If you need to get into a detox program, do that. Because without that, everything else is going to have a much harder time taking hold. But then you want to actually physically clean your home. You want to get rid of any of the clutter that you're not using, because you want the energy to flow freely through the home. You would probably know how bad these houses can sometimes get. Many years ago, like 35 years ago, I went into a house in New Haven, Connecticut, and this was a full family, and they had raw sewage flowing out of the toilet down the stairs, and children in their undershorts just running around in those puddles.
Oh.
And the rest of the house was exactly the same. That needed to be cleaned first before we can do anything. But besides that, start watching comedies that make you laugh out loud. Play board games with your family. Work on your relationships. Make love. Listen to music that makes you want to sing out loud, not death metal and things like that. Listen to happy music. And if you're gonna fight, take it outside, resolve it, and then come into the house. Don't bring that negative energy into the home with you. The next thing you want to do is learn how to spiritually protect yourself. And I tell people to do this every morning and night when they're in bed. Would you like me to go through and do this?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. Well, it takes a couple of minutes. That's why I
No,
want to ask.
take all the time you need.
Okay. Well, for the folks out there, if you want to do this with me, I promise you will feel this.
Okay,
All right.
do it. I'll do it
Close
with you.
your eyes. Take some deep cleansing breaths in through the nose. Hold it for a few seconds and out through the mouth. In through the nose slowly. Hold it for a few seconds and out through the mouth. Do this 3 times until you feel centered. And then, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to picture this warm, white, loving light deep inside of your chest. This is the connection that we all carry with us, that whether you call it God or Allah or the universe, doesn't matter. It's your intention to connect with that source. I want you to imagine it growing and filling up your chest, warm and tingling, moving down through your belly, down through your legs, warm like flowing honey, down through your feet, filling them up through your shoulders, through your arms, down through your hands, up through your neck and your head, filling you up, and then spilling out of the pores of your skin like the most brilliant white light in the universe. Do not be concerned if you can't visualize this. It doesn't matter. It's your intention to surround yourself with that higher power's protection. You have to call on it. This is free will at work. And then If you're somebody like an empath who's picking up negative energy from people every day, I want you to imagine a mirrored surface on the outside, pushing all of that negative energy back against wherever it's being sent from. If you're being confronted by something dark in your home, imagine a white ball just exploding outward or from you, filling up the entire home, blowing away all shadows. You're asking God to fill your home. You can surround your loved ones with this light. Do this every morning and every night when you're at your most relaxed in bed. That's it.
Thank you. That's very important to learn. It is.
Intentions and mindfulness are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Intention is everything. And when you combine it with a ritual, you're focusing it in a clear way. Just saying, yeah, protect me, that's not enough. You've got to really focus it. Now, I can do that ritual just this fast.
Do you have a vent blowing behind you, or is it what is moving your curtain?
Oh yeah, no, it's Paraguay is very windy and extremely windy, and actually it's gorgeous. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be about 100 degrees right now, and it's 72. So I'm enjoying it. The windows are open, the doors are open.
Hey, you're debunking everything.
There are no screens are a thing of America and Canada. You don't get those anywhere else in the world.
Wow. That was a good debunk, though. Let's see, you've debunked everything, the one going by you.
I thought we were driving off the visitors in your home with all of this.
No, I could feel that. I could feel all that light coming out or coming around. It was usually whenever I could feel myself moving. So I bet you if we watch it, when I watch it, I might be moving because I felt like I was, but that's usually when I'm really centered into a good spiritual cleansing kind of thing. That was great.
Yeah, people often tell me they get that. And by the way, Joe Monk, you are watching something cool. You're watching these.
Exactly. Joe's my pal. He's a Spaced Out Radio. We mess with each other all the time. We're good.
You guys are great. I was curious, what was you may have said this last time, but what was your first paranormal experience? What really got you wanting to do this? I mean, I believe you didn't want to do this originally, but something really shifted in you.
Yeah, I did. I talked about not my first experience exactly, but the one that convinced me that this was something I should do. See, I grew up in fear. I grew up with social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, all blaming my father for my fears, and it was I was a psychic, and I was hearing things and manifesting and feeling those things in the dark around me, and I was terrified. And yes, I was also bullied, and yes, I had a bad relationship with my father, and all of that contributed. But that wasn't why. But when my grandfather took me on my first case, and I had to deal with a poltergeist case that was literally right out of Hollywood, I mean, just over the top phenomena. When I survived that, and that was it. I mean, I learned how to overcome fear, and I chose a path of psychology and learning psychology at university, and I wanted to help other people to be free of their fears. Most of the time, we're not dealing with something evil. We're just dealing with something you don't understand. You know, that knock on the door in the middle of the night isn't the devil coming to knock on the door in your soul. He ain't gonna knock. You know? So, no, it's probably, you know, your grandpa come to say hi and just say, hey, I'm here. Like Lala's son's or father. I don't want to label him. I'm sorry.
Baby daddy, no.
It was interesting during the pandemic how seemed like there was even more cases of, you can hear it all around. Like you could hear the different people talking that were in this. So did you experience that too?
Oh, absolutely. We all did. Everybody did. And it's because the spirit world was reacting to our anxieties, our panic, our fears. They were on the other side saying, what the hell's going on over there? And they manifested that way. They were reflecting us, and they were afraid. I think I mentioned it. I remember I did, because Bob talked about how much he loved the movie as well. Like The Others, the movie The Others with McKinnell. So these spirits don't. Many times they don't even know they're dead. They don't know they're spirits.
Right.
And so they're afraid. And when they are confronted by something terrifying to them, they're going to act out.
I have a question. It happened to me, and I always wondered. I know it was to intimidate me, but I also wondered what it truly meant. Was I moved into this new home, and all of a sudden, I heard claw marks at the front door, and then the doorknob started to shake. And I looked through a little peephole. Nobody was there, no animals. Was that to get me to open the door, to invite it in? It's not like they found a loophole, or just to mess with me.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, it could have one or the other. I had a case in Germany where a team had gone into a Nazi girls' school that had then been converted into a place to store V1 rockets or V2 rockets. And then it was used also for dark magic. Oh, and there was a manifestation of this skeletal girl. And I've got a photo of it, where it looked like the thing from The Ring, the movie The Ring. And it tried to reach out to a woman in this place. The team had brought this woman, or the public, into this place without investigating it first. Incredibly ignorant idea. Well, one night after she had gone home, it was snowing. There was snow on the ground. Her kids were in the living room, and there was a knock on the door. They went to the door, and there was this girl with only a shirt going down to her knees. And she was saying, "Where is Herman? Do you see Herman?" And the woman said, "There's no Herman here." She didn't have shoes on, nothing. And she said, "There's no Herman here." And she closed the door on this child. But the boys said, "No, Mom, you have to open the door. You have to let her in. She doesn't have any shoes on." She opened the door, giving invitation. And there were no footprints. The spirit wasn't there. But then it started to manifest on the team. This woman ended up joining the team because of this experience. And it would be there before they even went in on a new case. And then this poor woman, her husband was going down the basement stairs, and the spirit manifested and pushed him down the stairs and broke his leg. Another team member, the daughter, got attacked. We were able to help this team, and there's no longer a problem. But yeah, opening that door, that physical door, that was an invitation.
I was wondering, because I just had this, it scared me, but there was just this little voice saying, "Don't you open that door. Do not do it." So I always wondered about that. But I'm glad, it's nice that you're here, because we can all ask questions like this, because we don't get answers to these types of questions usually, So it's good. It's helpful.
Such as, is it possible that people from the past that have seen ghosts are actually seeing us in the future, some kind of time slip?
That's an interesting idea. That really is. I don't know for sure. But I will tell you about a colleague of mine in Canada who was investigating a house with her team. She and one of her colleagues went down in the basement. The others split up into their two groups in the house. And they were down there for an hour. They heard footsteps come down the stairs into the basement. They saw the basement door open up. They were sitting on the floor, leaning against a bed, and they didn't see anyone there. Then they heard the footsteps go up the stairs again. When they finally went upstairs, the whole team was like, "Where were you? We've been searching the whole house." So we were down in the basement, like we said we would be. We went down there. There was nobody there.
Oh,
They had slipped into another dimension.
Wow.
I believe it.
Yeah, then there's that famous case of a man who arrived in Tokyo, I think in 1949, and he was carrying a passport from a country that didn't even exist.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they put him up in a hotel. They had guards on the door. Next morning, when they went to pick him up to question him further, there was no evidence that he had ever been there. He was gone.
I read about that. That was amazing.
Wow.
I believe all this stuff. I really do.
Could it be that? So, Joe, could it be? Yes, it could. Psychics, especially, we see things sometimes that may not be spirits at all, may not be residual hauntings. We may not be seeing the past. We might be taking a glimpse of the future. It hasn't happened to me, but I would never rule it out. I don't rule out anything. We use the word can't. To me, that's limiting.
Right.
Don't say you can't do something. Say you won't.
There's actual scientific evidence that precog is involved in a lot of this, and it's positronic emission tomography done on the brain, sees the brain reacting before the stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're not consciously aware of it, you see the brain reacting ahead. It's anticipating. It's kind of amazing.
Well, I think, especially for major events, it's like throwing a large boulder in a pond. There are ripples. And sensitive people, forward and backward in time, can pick up on those ripples. And they get a sense of it. And that's where we get precognition from.
Well, Russell Tard, one of the major remote viewing developers with Hal Puthoff, believes that all remote viewing is precog.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
And they coined the term remote viewing.
Oh, very interesting. Huh. Because
Both of them physicists. Both of them physicists.
Well, it's kind of like, there's two things that are coming to mind. One of them is a case I did that ended up being, I'd never been to this place, and it was on the East Coast, but I was like, as I'm talking to the client, I'm seeing this place. I'm seeing it like I'm there, and I'm seeing the people that are there. And then as it goes further, it's in Millnocket. Millnocket is where it was. But I saw like the cobblestone streets. I saw these doctors. I saw this doctor in there. I mean, I was like the whole thing. And I saw these people down in like they're in a cellar, right? A cellar. And I'm telling this person this whole thing and what's happening. And so the next day, she sends me stuff on Millnocket and the history of Millnocket, how there was the cobblestone streets and how they had a plague in Millnocket and all the people that had died, which I saw these dying people were in the storages underneath these big areas. And then there was a thunderbird I kept seeing in the forest, and I didn't know there's a traditional thunderbird that's in this forest there. So I'm like, everything I said, everything I saw was accurate. Even the cobblestone streets, which a portion of them are still there in Millnocket, which used to be a place where they would hang people. And that's what I saw, somebody being hung. So it's like, would that be precog? I mean, like, I don't even know how
That's past.
Yeah.
Oh, past.
So that's more clairvoyance.
Okay.
But again, we're throwing words around, labels around.
Right.
I'm a label kind of guy.
Right.
That's you're trying to put it into a box. And I don't want to put it in a box. That's so self-limiting. People ask me, what am I? Am I a medium or an empath or this or that? I'm like, whatever I need to be, I'll try and do it. I'm not going to limit myself by putting myself in only one name. I wear so many different hats. It's ridiculous.
That's a good idea. Yeah, because you do a lot of different. I mean, you are kind of really versatile. And so, are you actually trained as a counselor too? I'm assuming you might be. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. A lot of people are, a lot of them mental, and I believe that they actually do go and prey on people that are emotionally upset or have mental problems and drug addictions and alcohol addictions. They just seem to, kind of go in on that. I'm hearing, is Lala there? I hear Lala, I think.
Her microphone is here, even though I just muted myself. No, but her microphone's here. There's a little echo, but it's not objectionable. We can live with it.
Well,
but she's not the cause of it.
Well, I was going to mention, like, because it's another thing, Lala was like, I had kind of brought Lala into a case that I had been asked to help with, and we really haven't spoke about it publicly. And I don't think it's okay. I think it's okay to speak about it publicly because of what we're talking about. We don't have to say who it was or what it is.
Exactly.
It's about these children.
Give away the private details.
It's about children and us. I keep hearing stuff at the doors. I'm knocking and all this, but it's the dogs. But she and I both were doing this, working with this, but we were separate. And it was amazing how many things she could see that I was seeing that we were not communicating with. But it was like these children, or these few children, or a couple of children, were, very adamantly still trying to connect and show what was happening. Do you find that happens in your work if there's a crime that might have happened?
Yeah. Well, actually, remember I had mentioned all the children being killed here.
Right.
There are a couple of, there's a battlefield and a hospital where the children were all killed. At one point at the end of the war, the 8-year-olds and so forth were given wooden fake rifles to guard the women in a caravan, and the Brazilians just came with machetes and murdered everybody. That's one battlefield I want to get to because I know there are lost souls there. I know for a fact. There's so many stories of people having problems there, and that kind of thing doesn't concern me. I'm not worried about them. I've never, not since I've been 16 have I been afraid of the paranormal. I just want to help, and I don't make a distinction between the living and the dead. Right. So yeah, children can get lost. I had a case outside of San Jose, Costa Rica. It was a sanitarium. It had originally been for tuberculosis, and there was a children's ward. And I had paparazzi following me around the whole time, which was really annoying. I don't like that kind of thing. And I escaped for a short moment. And I went into this one room, and all of a sudden, this little child comes up to me, a spirit. And I'm using my limited Spanish to try to help this child to pass it over, saying, look, your parents left 100 years ago. You can go into the light. And the child wasn't having it, didn't want to listen to me. All of a sudden, my grandfather's over here on my right-hand side with his arms crossed, like, Chris, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, he didn't say anything, but he's just staring at me like, But my grandmother comes from the left. But she gets down on one knee. She puts her hand out. The child takes my grandmother's hand, and they walked into the light together. Wow. She's better than I am.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful. So you helped them, and they helped you help them.
Oh, all the time. My grandparents are well, my grandmother in particular. My grandfather used to come around a lot when my grandmother was still alive, and then right after she died for about 1.5 years, 2 years. But now, not so much. It's almost always my grandmother now.
How did you feel about the movies that were made? The original one. The original one's my favorite with the couple. How did you feel about it?
Hands down, it's the only one that's any good, in my opinion. Number 2, I couldn't stand. Number 3, I will say, the last moment, the last scene,
Yeah.
brought tears to my eyes, because that was the most accurate thing in any of the movies. My grandmother had always wanted a gazebo, and my grandfather took her out in the backyard with her eyes covered, and then unveiled that she now had a gazebo in the back. And they replicated that, and I was in tears. Yeah, that was beautiful. But you got, these are, when Hollywood takes your story, they're going to do whatever they want with it. And these are based on real cases, but they're not real stories.
Right.
I was thinking, since your grandmother was in the first one, I don't know if she was in the second one, but I know she
No,
was
it's
in the
not.
Okay, I was thinking that the first one, that it might have been even more, because they would really want to be like her. I thought the actress did really well trying
Oh,
to
Vera's
portray.
wonderful. She really is, and she took the time to get to know my grandmother.
Yeah.
She's a real, Earth mother type of person. Counted down to earth, hippie type vibe, and she loves my grandmother, and they loved each other. Whereas Patrick's, he didn't get to meet my grandfather.
Right.
He's not duplicating my grandfather at all. I don't see him at all. I don't see my grandfather at all when I see Patrick. He's wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I love the actor.
Yeah.
And as a human being, he seems to be a wonderful human being. But he's not channeling my grandfather the way Vera does.
Then the screenplay writers, the Hayes brothers, for both 1 and 2, I don't think they ever met your grandmother. They were given an outline of a script and told to write it.
Now, I'm not surprised. James Wan was a huge fan of my grandmother. His movie, was it Insidious that he did?
Yes.
Main character in the movie, and this is before he met my grandmother. The main character's name is Lorraine, as a tribute to my grandmother.
Got it.
Oh my
So
God.
James Wan is one of my favorite horror movie directors.
Yeah.
He's wonderful, and his respect for them touches my heart. It was so much so that he even brought in an exorcist to bless the movie sets on the second movie. He probably did it on the third one as well. He didn't do the third one, did he? But he did have it blessed because he wanted to keep everybody safe.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I just really loved. I just thought they did a really good job. But I could see that about your grandfather when you look at your because I've watched a lot of footage with him and them, and he has more of a gruff persona.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He was a type A, very type A kind of guy. He was like, "Come on, Lorraine, we gotta go." And she'd, "Okay, dear," and then she'd take another hour talking to the audience. I mean, she was just totally different people. It was beautiful to watch. Actually, I'd always made her laugh.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like that would be.
Oh, and this is important. In the first movie, they show my grandfather doing an exorcism. That's not true. My grandfather was a Catholic. He didn't believe he could do an exorcism.
Right.
So I'm an exorcist, but I'm not a Catholic. So, I'm an exorcist who doesn't believe in demons. Go figure.
But didn't he do something, and that's how come he got kind of hurt or sick or something? Or is that something they made up?
No. In the third movie, they show my grandfather having a heart attack during an exorcism. That didn't take place during that case. That was during the exorcism of Maurice Theriault. That was one of my cases.
Oh.
And I was the man protecting Bishop McKenna, standing between Bishop McKenna and Maurice. This was the second house we had been to that day. The first one was a poltergeist case that I had been working on, and we did a spiritual cleansing there first, and then we went to this house. And just as we're getting started with the exorcism, my grandfather started complaining that he didn't feel well. My grandmother looked right at him and said, "Oh, Ed, why don't you have a banana? You're probably low on potassium." One of the greatest psychics ever, couldn't see he was having a massive heart attack.
Oh,
It scared her too much to be able to see that. She couldn't read anybody she had feelings for. Thank God.
yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, but he wasn't doing at this point. They were in their 50s. They weren't hands-on anymore. They would go in. They would do the initial interview with us. Then they'd send us young folks out to do the actual gathering of information, and then they'd come in at the end to wrap up with the priests or whomever we brought in, and that was about it.
Probably a good thing then.
Yeah, I'm 60. The last thing I want to be doing is I went to England with my grandparents on a huge trip, and we were up in the northeastern England at a famous haunted cemetery, which escapes me right now. It's where Dracula was. And my grandfather had me and my buddy spend the night in this cold, damp cemetery. Was he there? No.
You're right. Okay.
How old were you? Was that when you were a teenager?
No, I would have been 21. It was just before I went to Africa for the Peace Corps.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. That would be scary, Lala and Bob.
I wouldn't do. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I'd want to, but I'm not brave enough to do it at all. No. Okay, so I can ask one more question, and then we gotta wrap it up. I'm sorry, but I would love to have all you back again.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a gross question, but I want to know, because I've been listening about exorcisms, and sometimes it's very rare, but sometimes it's so bad that the people's skin changes or starts to fall off. How does this happen? How does their body mutate like that? And have you ever experienced that or heard of that?
Okay. Look, I've only been involved in about a dozen exorcisms in my entire life. They are incredibly rare. I've met people who say, "Oh, I did 500 last year." I want to slap them. It's like, you did not. Maybe you did 500 deliverances.
Right.
You've got an alcohol demon or something like that. That's fine. If it helps, I'm all for it. By the way, if you're paying for a deliverance, do not do that, ever. I've had people lose thousands and thousands of dollars for monthly deliverance services, which are bullshit. But in the case of Maurice, physically, we would see blood coming out of his eyes, drool. We would see, and now in many cases, I've seen people clawed. I've seen words and symbols clawed into their back. That happens. But when you look at the video of Maurice Theriault in The Exorcism, which is on YouTube, you can look it up, you'll see a crack appear in his forehead. And you'll see his eyes take on a snake-like slitted appearance. And one cheek, this cheek, and this is where the crack was, this looks kind of scaly. But I was less than 3 feet away from him, standing in front of him. None of that was there.
Wow.
None of it. The film picked up, but physically it was not there.
Oh my God. Wait, is it safe for us to watch this? Some people say don't watch it because you can attract things to you. Because I want to see it.
Well, here's the thing. When I'm working on a case with someone, I will tell them, do not watch paranormal videos, do not watch paranormal TV shows, because you're feeding into somebody's fears. But no, you're not going to. Maurice was being possessed by his father. That's what I believe. My grandfather originally believed it was his father as well. Then, because this was the 80s, he went into the satanic panic thing, and he figured it was a demon. I disagree humbly and respectfully. I don't agree with that. I think it was his father, and it sure looked like his father when it came out at the end as well. So I don't think you have to worry about watching the video.
Okay, good.
This was terrific. You guys got to come back. Let's do it again. I wish we had another hour, but we don't. And Chris, you're very, very generous with your time. And we had a good audience on YouTube. It was
Awesome.
It was 200 people on X.
What?
Oh yeah, I went over and looked. The audience on X was huge. So I thank you very much for coming. And
if I get 20 people to look at the Warren files, it drives me.
I'm telling you, it's 200 people on it.
Yeah, everybody go look at the Warren files, Warren Legacy, your website.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Tell us all about where people go, so everybody, the 200 on X, can know where to go.
Look, if you need help, please just go check out my Instagram, which is Warren Files. Check out our YouTube, which is called The Warren Files, and you'll see the symbol of our foundation, which is the world surrounded by religious symbols, in our name, of course, the Warren Legacy Foundation. Promote us. Get the word out there. So not for the paranormal community. That's nice. It's fine. But we need to reach people who need help. I need your help to reach the general public so that we're able to help those who need us. But if you want to learn more, go to the YouTube channel. There's 100 videos or more from many, many knowledgeable people. It's not a bunch of, jump scare bull crap. It's knowledge, and we want to share it with you freely. What good is learning if you don't share it with others? It's lost.
Yeah.
Totally. As a longtime professor and lover of teaching, I tell you, I totally agree. Chris, Mercedes, thank you so much. It was wonderful. We will do this again soon. Lala will beat me if we don't.
Yes.
You can come on my show.
Happy holidays for everyone other in your many, many other holidays that are at this time of year.
And you got to go on Mercedes' show.
Yeah, I'd like you to come on my show. That would be awesome. I would love to interview you the next year. That would be so great. And I want to say a shout out to the Unseen Realm, because Archbishop Ron likes me to say that every Saturday we have the Unseen Realm at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Archbishop Ronald Enright, and we have a great show to talk about stuff like this. And then please watch my show, Mercedez Lucke Benedict show, on the web radio every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It was terrific. We will see you again soon.